"I could never take orders from anyone." This statement was made by a high school dropout from a small city in India who faced many struggles in life, built everything from scratch, and now he is the richest person in Asia. Everyone at some point in their lives has experienced failure. It could be anything as simple as not securing your dream job or getting low grades, even after studying day and night. Your failure does not define you, but how you come back after getting hit does. Here's a failure to the success story of a famous person that will definitely inspire you on one of the days when you give up. This is the story of Asia's richest man, who was once a high school dropout. We would often remember hearing about billionaires who dropped out of college to start businesses and make a fortune. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and Michael Dell are just a few examples. In fact, college dropouts make up a disproportionate share of the billionaire list. While these are all incredible success stories, one thing they all have in common is that they all took place in Western countries, specifically America. Welcome back, hustlers. Let's take you on a uniquely inspiring journey. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Unfortunately, in many Asian countries, if you don't end up making it with your firm but don't have a degree, you could end up homeless due to the intense competition for even entry-level jobs. Despite this, an Indian named Gautam Adani was willing to drop out of college and take the necessary risk to achieve his goals. In case you're wondering, Gautam was born on June 24, 1962, in Ahmedabad, India. Gautam's father was a local textile merchant. He had a good financial upbringing. But because Gautam had 7 siblings, his father's average income didn't stretch that far. While his family was not particularly wealthy, his father's small business most likely influenced the family's core values. In general, college is regarded as the cornerstone in India, and those who do not follow the traditional path are heavily socially excluded by society. However, it appears that Gautam's father's business has made the family more open to alternative paths, and this was crucial given Gautam's aversion to school from the start. He was unenthusiastic in academics, and he didn't believe that school could ever get him where he wanted to go. So, at the age of 16, he dropped out of high school and moved to Mumbai to start his own business. He only had a few hundred rupees, or less than $100, in his pocket. It's unclear what he tried to do in Mumbai, but it appears to have been a big failure because Gautam returned home and enrolled in Gujarat University, which is known for having extremely generous admissions. The university doesn't publish a formal acceptance rate, and it's assumed that anyone who applies and meets the basic requirements will be accepted. Gautam enrolled in a community college. This didn't make much sense because Gautam dropped out of college 2 years later at the age of 18. Well, you're probably wondering, so what? Why didn't he pursue his degree to earn more? He returned to Mumbai with a few hundred rupees extra, but this time he was prepared. Gautam went on to work as a diamond sorter at Mahindra Brothers. While the pay was low, Gautam gained valuable insight into the diamond industry, which he would later use to launch a diamond flipping business. This venture proved to be quite successful, earning Gautam a substantial sum of money. He couldn't exactly retire, but he no longer had to worry about making ends meet. Gautam didn't want to start a plastics company, but because of his brother, Gautam saw a great opportunity in the industry. PVC is one of the most important materials required for plastic production. And Gautam noticed that all of their PVC suppliers seemed to be doing much better than them. As a result, Gautam traveled to South Korea to meet with PVC producers and finalize an import agreement. Gautam then established Adani Exports Limited in 1988. About the Adani Group, Gautam founded the company with 500,000 rupees, which was approximately $36,000 at the time. Initially, the company imported PVC and sold it to local plastic factories, but Gautam quickly expanded the venture. Beginning in 1991, the Indian government shifted its stance on business and began enacting legislation that was far more favorable to corporations. For example, they eased up on licensing requirements, reduced tariffs, and relaxed banking policies. This period has since come to be known as India's economic liberalization. All of these initiatives resulted in an influx of capital into the Indian economy and allowed businesses to grow faster than ever before, which was ideal for Gautam. Gautam then used these policies to expand the company's trading into metals, textiles, and agricultural commodities. A few years later, India opened the Mundra shipping port to private companies, and Gautam was awarded the contract in 1995. Since then, the Mundra port has grown to become India's largest private port. Gautam quickly followed this success with the establishment of a power plant in 1996. By 1998, the Adani Group has risen to become India's largest net foreign exchange earner. Amidst all of his achievements, Gautam had yet to enter his most lucrative industry, the coal industry. Because of the massive costs associated with establishing up and the monopolistic nature of the business, the coal industry historically had a high barrier to entry. On the other hand, if you can dethrone the current coal leader, you'll be set for decades. Gautam was well aware of this, so he waited until he was truly ready, which wasn't until 1999. Gautam soon formed a partnership with the Wilmar Group, a leading Singaporean company. They formed a joint venture called Adani Wilmar, which cemented Gautam's place in the big leagues. Moreover, once you reach the major leagues, you must deal with major issues. So what is the poison pill for him? Let's find out. One of the most genuine issues for many billionaires is being assassinated or held for ransom. That is why many CEOs and billionaires spend millions, if not tens of millions, on security each year. Donald Trump, for example, is one of the most outspoken billionaires. You think Trump enjoys fine dining in fancy restaurants, but he prefers to eat at fast food restaurants most of the time. He believes that if he shows up at a fast food restaurant at random, he has a much lower chance of being poisoned than if he makes a reservation at a fancy restaurant. This is truly ironic, but it's often the price you have to pay to reach the top. It's unclear how much attention Gautam paid to such threats, but it quickly became clear that he should have paid a lot more attention. A group of men stopped Gautam and one of his friends, Shantilal Patel, as they left the Karnavati Club in 1998. They forced the pair into a van and drove them to an unknown location. Fortunately, the group had no intention of murdering Gautam. They only wanted his money, and they were set free as soon as he handed over $2 million. The kidnapping was eventually linked to Faz-ur-Rahman and Pa Gilal, two gangsters who both had lengthy criminal records. I'm quite certain Gautam was so much more careful after this incident, but 10 years later, he'd have another near-death experience. This time, however, it was not on the streets of India, but rather in one of the most luxurious and opulent locations in India, the Taj Hotel. The Taj Hotel was one of the targets of a series of terrorist attacks on November 26, 2008. A group of 10 terrorists stormed the Taj Hotel, killing dozens of people and kidnapping the rest of the guests. Luckily, the hotel staff led the surviving victims of the attack to the basement and, eventually, a chamber hall where they sought refuge. Gautam clearly had the worst experience of his life. It did, however, provide him with a new perspective on life, which he has carried with him ever since. While Gautam hasn't done much good in other areas, he has done a lot on his own. For example, he established free schools throughout India, educating 100,000 underprivileged children. He has recently attempted to mitigate his negative environmental impact. Do you think Gautam got lucky, or do you believe he could have still done it today without a college degree? Let us know in the comments section.